Okay, hey girlie. So today we're going to be talking about adding and subtracting real numbers. So you know me, you first start with our vocab. And luckily for this little bit, the only vocab that we have is real numbers. And trying to define what exactly they are. So by textbook, it is the set of all numbers that can be represented on a number line. Okay, so basically any number that's on a number line, cool. That's a real number. So just some little tips. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start like a little cheat box in the corner, right? So I'm gonna have to get rid of this real numbers kind of thing, but it'll be okay. So specifically when we're talking about number lines, for addition or to add, you go to the right of the number line. To subtract, you go to the left of the number line. Sorry, my left was dragging. But that's our little cheat box. And that's something that we should really remember. Okay. So that's our little cheat thing. So we're going to do an example to start off with. So let's say they said it's add or subtract using a number line. That's our directions. Add or subtract using number line. Okay, cool. So example number 1 is -3 plus 6. So I'm going to draw a little number line, and we'll make this -4. So this will be -3. This will be -2, -1, 0. Sorry, I have to continue my number line. This will be 1, 2, 3, 4, and we'll go to 5, and we'll stop. Okay? So that's our little number line. You should be able to see it. Try and point the light downwards a little bit, so that way you can see a little better. There we go. That seems to be good. All right, so that's our number line, right? So it says -3 to 6. So I first want to think about my starting point. So my starting point is at -3, right? So I'm going to put a little dot there, right? It's my starting point. Now, my ending point, we don't know yet. We have to add 6, so we're not sure. So we're going to add 6. Now, if you remember from our cheat sheet in the corner, to add means to go to the right of the number line. You're going deeper. We're trying to go towards 0, not away from it. We're trying to go towards 0. So we're going to add 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That digit is 3. So -3 plus 6 is 3. Okay? Pretty much that simple. So next up, what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to extend my number line. Okay, so my number line is extended, right? So our problem is -2, starting point, minus -9. So first things first, I'm going to mark my -2 on my number line. Now, minus -9. What should we do? So this is where things start to get a little bit tricky. Whenever you see something like this, where you have a minus and then you have a negative sign, because technically this is telling you that we're subtraction, but this is a negative sign. You're going to turn both of them into a positive. So we're going to put that on our cheat sheet. Okay, so I put it in our little cheat sheet right there. This is what it says, but in words, it's when subtracting by a negative number, you add by the positive version of that number, which is what we did here. So now this turns from -2 minus -9 to -2 plus 9, which is a positive 9. So now we're adding, right? Jeez, now we're adding. And remember, when we add, we go to the right. We're going towards 0, not away. So we're going to add 9. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, which gives us 7. 7 is our answer here. Okay, so now we're going to do that same thing, but trying to not use number lines. So basically, we have, the direction is to add basically here. So we have -3 plus -16, right? So now this one's a little bit different. So when we have to, if this was a negative, right, we would have to then change that into a positive and then make this into a positive as well. But it's not. So instead, it's telling us to go farther. So we're adding more into the negative. So we're going to continue to go left. So my little hint for this is I literally add these up as if they were positive. So I would do 16 plus 3, which is 19. And then I just slap a negative sign into it because I know that we're going deeper into the negatives. So in this case, this answer is -19. And if you want to see it in terms of a number line, right? So let's say we have a number line. I'm going to go by 5s. So that's 0, 5, 10, 15, right? -15, right? -10, -5, 0. So -3 is somewhere around here. We'll say that's -3. And now we're subtracting by 16. So it's going to be a little bit over here. But you're adding into the negative, but you're adding -16 to it. So you're going all the way over here, and this is -16. And then that gives you, this would be -19 over here. Okay, it's just one of those things that you're just going to have to learn over time. And that you're just going to have to know. There's no other better way to like explain it. Kind of just one of those things where you know that if you see a plus, a negative, that you're just going to go deeper into the negatives. So moving on, we have -13 plus 7. Now remember, we're going to the right of the, we're going closer to 0. We're going to the right, which means that we're getting out of the negative. If you think of it in our number line, if you go right, we're going closer and closer to 0 to eventually cross over to that positive. So you have -13 plus 7. So now what is it? Take a guess. Okay, welcome back. So the answer is, so I don't like doing the math, is -6. And here's why. So if we're thinking about it in terms of a number line, you have your -13 here, right? Which is your starting point. You're adding 7. And remember when we said that we add, we have to go this way. So we have to add 7. It's a positive 7, but we're going out of the negatives. And eventually, if you do that 7 times, you're going to get to -6. So technically, our number got bigger because it got closer to 0. The closer you get to 0, the bigger the number in terms of the negatives. And then last but not least, we have 6.2 plus -4.9. So I want you to try that on your own. You can, I guess use a calculator. That kind of cheats it. I'll just ask you, what sign do you think it is? Do you think it's going to be positive or do you think it's going to be negative? Okay, cool. Welcome back. So in this case, our answer is going to be positive still. And here's why. So we start at 6.2, which is in the positives, but we're adding, but we're subtracting. So we're adding on a -4.9, which means that we're going to go to the left. Okay, so if we're looking at this in terms of a number line, we're starting at 6.2, you know, and this is like, we'll say this is 0. But we're adding on a negative number, which means that we're going to subtract it. So instead, we're going to go left because remember, this is subtraction. The only time that you really have some kind of special rule is when you're subtracting by a negative, number, but we're not doing that. We're adding by a negative number. So we're going left. And yeah. So in this case, it's still going to be positive though, because 4.9 is less than 6.2. So it's not like we're going to hit 0. You know, when you do your minus 4.9, you know, like this is minusing 4.9, you're going to get 1.3. Okay, that's your answer is 1.3. Because basically, this positive technically kind of cancels out because 6.2 is less than, is more than 4.9. So basically, when I look at these, I literally just look at it as 6.2 minus 4.9. And then that gives me 1.3. Okay, now we're getting into subtraction. So our first problem is 7 minus 10. So what sign do you think that is going to be? 7 minus 10. Welcome back. So the sign for this one is going to be negative. And how I know that? Because, like I said, we're thinking about it in terms of a number line, right? So we have 7 over here, right? But the distance from 0 to 7 is just 7. But 7 is less than 10. Therefore, now we're going to go into the negatives another 3 to get to 10. So therefore, this answer is negative 3. I like to think of it like this once again by just doing 10 minus 7, which equals 3, and then I just add that negative sign to it. Does that make sense? Okay, moving on. So we have negative 3 minus negative 12. And what did we say? We have our special rule. We're subtracting by a negative number. So these become positive. So now you really have negative 3 plus 12. So what is the answer? Okay, the answer is 9. Because basically in this case, you're just doing 12 minus 3, which is 9. Because that's, you know, like the inverse way of like thinking about it. But if you need to view it as in a number line, you can think of it like this. This is negative 3. You add 9. And this space is 9. And then you get over here to 12. And in between this is 9. I'm sorry. Yes, yeah, in between that. I'm sorry. Woohoo! Sorry. This is 9, in between here is 12. I was like, wait a minute, my bad. Okay. Oopsies. Okay, next up is number 3, which is 22.5 minus negative 4. Same thing, we're using our special rule, ding, ding, ding. We're adding it. So now you just have 22.5 plus 4, which is just equal to 26.5. That's that. Well, let me know if that makes sense. Okay, so that was the end of this one. We're going to do another one on multiplication and division, but I figured I would split it up. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some questions after this so that you can try on your own and just see if you get it right and just give you a little bit more examples. Remember our cheat sheet. So if we're adding, we're going to the right of the number line. Before subtracting, we're going to the left. And remember that when we're subtracting by a negative number, that you have to switch it to a positive sign. So you have to switch it to an addition sign, and then that number then becomes positive. Okay, peace out.